Ladies and gentlemen, this is Steve Eyes. You're on the EyesIsWatchin channel. The collapse of fiat currency, false prophets, and Aleister Crowley's Moonchild, digital enslavement through CBDCs, cell phones being turned into mini grenades, absolute mayhem taking place as predicted in the Year of Saturn, as those in power gear up for the ultimate world-changing event. Now, is this just another wild coincidence, or are the financial puppet masters prepping for something much bigger? The Fed cuts interest rates by 50 basis points the exact same date they did back in 2007. And well, we all remember what happened next. Major recession, the 2008 financial meltdown. But this time, it's a little different. This time, it looks like they're aiming to completely destroy fiat currency. Cutting interest rates by 50 basis points is like slapping a band-aid on a severed limb. We've got Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America closing branches left and right. And I mean, is this downsizing really, or are they quietly prepping for the death of physical cash and the birth of their precious digital currency? A little central bank digital currency, to be exact, where every transaction can be monitored and controlled. Major banks have shut down hundreds of branches in recent years, and digital banking is replacing them. We got prominent figures out here selling CBDCs as our savior to the dying fiat system. Not a coincidence that rate cuts, bank closures, and digital platforms are all happening in perfect lockstep. And remember SWIFT, the financial system's puppet master, just a few months ago announced they're rolling out their CBDC platform in the next 12 to 24 months. And looks like things are going according to plan. And if you're wondering what the reason is for all these worldwide crises taking place at the same time, like we're hitting the apocalyptic jackpot or something, it's because they want to keep you distracted while the digital concentration camp is being built around you. Trump's out here headlining Bitcoin conferences, preaching that this shiny new digital system is the way to go. Meanwhile, in Canada, they're doing the same thing. Remember when the Trudeau himself froze people's bank accounts over the Freedom Convoy? Just imagine the kind of control they'll have with a fully centralized digital currency. Trudeau just basically handed over the keys to the kingdom over to a man named Mark Carney, a man that was previously a governor of the Bank of England and the Bank of Canada, and he's been pushing this CBDC agenda for years. He just joined the Liberal Party, and you better believe they're going to speed through with this CBDC, aka government-sanctioned digital enslavement. What kind of power would these DICs have with a CBDC? Well, if the government needs more cash, they can double the money supply in seconds, turning a $5 coffee into a $100 luxury. Instant chaos at the click of a button. Just imagine the power they would have, and on top of that, the censorship will hit hellish new levels. They've already said their main priority is to crack down on misinformation, and a CBDC would give them total control to silence any dissent. Now, as we're seeing the pieces being moved into place here, they just need a messiah-like figure to promote it. The man out here dodging bullets like the Matrix, swooping in to lead us into this brave new world. Who could that be? Mr. AC, the Beast, or otherwise known as Aleister Crowley's Moonchild? Aleister Crowley, you know, the infamous Satanist, head DIC, big fan of Satan himself, had a grand vision of creating a Moonchild through his esoteric demonic rituals. This child, he believed, would be born through the union of opposites, male and female energies, crafted through alchemy and satanic sexual magic, with the goal of birthing a being who could transcend human consciousness and usher in a new age. Fast forward to 1946, after Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard finished their occult Babylon working rituals, guess what happened? Donald Trump was born on June 14 under a blood moon. Not just any blood moon either, the first of 3 in a row that year, right after those freaky rituals took place. Trump's arrival under such cosmic circumstances seemed a little too well timed to just be a coincidence. Aleister Crowley also emphasized the importance of lunar and solar events in his magic, and the synchronicity here is just weird to say the least. From September now into the month of October, we're going to see some weird occultish sky events. We've got a blood moon, the so-called comet of the century, and a ring of fire solar eclipse, all happening in the span of a few weeks. For the occult crowd, these eerie sky phenomenons scream of satanic influence, especially since 2024 is also considered the Year of Saturn for the occult, believed to be a time of darkness and chaotic energy, a time to accelerate their satanic influence. Now, just to add to all of that, a TV series about Parsons titled Strange Angel premiered on Trump's 72nd birthday, complete with a blood moon in its opening scene. And it's hard not to wonder if the DICs are hinting that Trump is the Moonchild Crowley was trying to summon, or maybe even Parsons' jet-propelled Antichrist, in quotes. This is what Parson wanted to create in the future. With all these eerie cosmic events taking place, it really feels like this year is the big one. These demons think the planets are aligning for them to pull the trigger on their major cataclysm. Who is Aleister Crowley and what was he about? Well, let's play some of this right here.
This is Edward Alexander Crowley, also known as Aleister Crowley. He styled himself the wickedest man in the world. He believed himself to be the great beast, and he changed his name to Aleister Crowley so it would add up in both English, Hebrew, and Greek Kabbalah as 666. In 1904, Crowley had a communication with an extraterrestrial being named Ewas. And this being, through his wife, kind of a channeling type operation, brought forth a book that was called the Book of the Law in 1904. And this book declared that the slain and risen God had stepped off the throne and that a new God, the crowned and conquering child, was taking his place. He was a brilliant genius. He could play 8 chess games blindfolded. He was an accomplished poet, mountaineer, painter, writer. He had so many Masonic degrees that you could fill up 5 pages of a book with them. This guy was probably the most highly honored Mason in the world. And he began doing rituals to bring forth this crowned and conquering child. And he began to start what he called the cult of the fascinating child. And in doing this, he uncovered, without knowing it, the royal secret of Masonry. And what happened was, a gentleman came knocking at his door after he published a book. And in this book, it was a book of poetry, and in the book he had made an allusion to something. And this guy, his name was Theodore Royce. He was a German occultist and the head of the OTO, the Ordo Templi Orientis, which stands for the Order of Eastern Templars. And this Theodore Royce told Crowley that he had given away the greatest secret in occult history. And Crowley said, "What do you mean? I don't even understand it." So the guy promptly initiated him on the spot to the 9th degree of the OTO and then explained the secret to him. And you're about to learn what this secret is. The secret is that as a Mason, you are promised immortality. Where do they get their promise of immortality? Simply, the secret that Crowley uncovered, probably through demonic intervention, is the secret that this immortality is conveyed through tantric sex magic. And the kind of sex magic that we're talking about here, unfortunately,
that's crazy.
Crowley taught that the way you could live forever, and this, I apologize that this is so horrible. Probably 1 in 100 knows about this. But this is a significant enough problem that I feel compelled to share it with you. This is why the Masons believe that they will live forever. They think every time they... What happens then is they believe that they are accessing alternate universes, alternate realities where they can become as gods. Everything in magic, like everything in the occult, has its yin and yang. It's positive and it's negative, it's good and evil. There's always this dynamism. And so therefore, just like there is a tree of life, there is also a tree of evil. This is called the Qliphote in Hebrew, which translated means harlots. Here is what is ultimately involved. There is a belief that they can access these tunnels into alternate universes, alternate realities. And the goal of this kind of magic is to find your own universe and become the god over that universe. This buys into the modern day physics theory that there's many, many dimensions of reality. Maybe you've read about that. Alternate universes. It shows up in science fiction a lot. And then once you're the god of this universe, you can start sucking the energy out of it. And you can use that energy through this child to live forever and ever and ever.
They told Aleister Crowley, some head Satanist said, "I'm about to tell you the secret." I was sitting there wondering, what the hell is the secret? What's this big secret they're about to tell Aleister Crowley, head Satanist? And it happened to be with Epstein and all these politicians and celebrities involved. It's not just to fulfill their own sick, twisted. They believe this is some truly sick, demonic stuff here. And Aleister Crowley performed a lot of sick sexual magic in hopes to give birth to the Moonchild. And a lot of people believe that is Mr. Orange Man. You better believe it. The Year of Saturn continues, folks. Okay, people, so right after the Time magazine posted a picture of Trump in a golf cart on a golf course with the caption, "Trouble," we had another assassination attempt, in quotes, from a while Trump was going golfing. How did he know Trump was going to go golfing? Well, make of that what you will. Of course, the bullets missed again, and Trump survived. He's like Neo in the Matrix. My savior, if you can believe that. Isn't it interesting? Just 1 week after their shitty debate, Trump and Kamala. It was terrible, I must say. Nothing new, just same old talking points spewed back and forth. Like automated drones. They didn't like that. This didn't go as planned. I mean, even right-wing news channels were saying Trump didn't do well. And just 1 week later, oh, would you look at that. Free, priceless promotion right here for the Don Don. Let's look into this. Ryan Wesley Ruth. This is what mainstream news is saying right here. A former Trump supporter turned Biden and Harris fan was arrested for attempting to assassinate Donald Trump with an AK in his hand near Trump's golf course. Ruth's background is strange to say the least. So this Ryan Ruth has been actively recruiting Afghans to fight for Ukraine and was raising funds through his website. He's made multiple trips to Ukraine, posting extremist views like burning the Kremlin to the ground, despite his criminal history, including weapons charges, not just any weapons charges, you know, the standard getting arrested for weapons of mass destruction. You heard that right. You know the same shit they accused Saddam of having? Yeah, Ryan Ruth was arrested for weapons of mass destruction, and he somehow miraculously dodged any major consequences for that one. Now, the more you look into it, the more things get weird. Just like the last shooting, no online history, a lot of weirdness in that one. Trump popping up giving a speech with a big-ass Band-Aid on his ear. Remember that? Right after the AR-15 bullet grazed his ear. Then miraculously, the AR-15 wound to his ear magically healed. Makes you wonder what the big-ass Band-Aid was for, huh? Making it seem like it was just a heart attack. Mosquito drones that can... I say that to say this. Think back to what happened to JFK. Matter of fact, I heard a new theory saying they actually implanted a chip in his brain, and his brain actually exploded from inside. That's one of the theories, but I've been playing that video back. It's quite insane to really fathom what happened there. In other words, they don't miss when they want your TV turned off. And just like that, when the ratings are down, Gotta give the Moonchild that savior-like image, of course. Matter of fact, the amount of rabbis coming out saying Trump is their messiah is just nuts. They believe Trump was put here on earth. You can't even make this up. We got rabbis actually saying this. Check this out right here.
Trump started the messianic process. What? Because people don't realize that Esav does tshuva. He is Esav doing tshuva, which I've said many times and so on. So therefore, this is what is happening. And to show you, and remember the main job of Esav, even though he became a Russia, will be Rav Yavoi Tzoya. The older will serve the younger. That's the prophecy. That means in the end, Esav has to do tshuva and help the Jewish people do the tikkun. That's what it is. And therefore, in the end of time, Esav will do tshuva, who I feel is Trump. Abraham Accords.
Wow.
It's unheard of that he did that. When he gets back in, which I feel he will, and finish the job, don't even think about counting him out. Between now and then, a lot of water is going to pass under that bridge, and then so on, you know. There are many reasons why DeSantis won't even challenge him.
Rabbi Mendel Kessin from New Jersey has had a series of lectures on American politics in the West, etc., final redemption, Mashiach, etc., etc. Interjects this idea that events of the 21st century are absolutely reflected within the Torah. Rabbi Kessin connects Esau throughout history to Edom, which is the Edomites, Rome being the Roman Empire, and then Christianity, and then now what we call the Western nations and Western civilization. Ultimately, the United States is the personification of this is what he says, of the good Edom, of the good side of Edom. Rabbi Kessin contends that the sins of Esau will be removed and Esau will become a God-fearing people. The idea that Esau has traditionally, Esau being Esau, which is the brother of Yaakov, has traditionally been associated with oppressing and persecuting and afflicting Jews at the end of days. And he will undergo a fundamental change in his character. Rather than harming Jews, Esau will turn towards serving the Jews, assisting them in doing God's will in the form of mitzvah or biblical commandments. As a result, Esau will be rehabilitated and will earn a place in the world to come. Further, since Rabbi Kessin believes that spiritual task of Esau is being completed in the United States today. This is his contention and his belief. He sees the destiny of the United States at the end of days as a positive. But it doesn't end there. Rabbi Kessin further asserts that the current president of the country has a critical role in purifying the United States. What I believe is that, this is a quote from him, he says, what I believe is that the one who is going to switch from Esau from persecuting the Jews to Esau who is serving the Jews is Donald Trump. Rabbi Kessin claims he is going to purify Edom.
Well, there you have it, folks. Donald Trump is put here by... And this last rabbi, not this one, but the one before him, suggested that Donald Trump has a role in initiating the messianic processes and is expected to return in 2024 to help fulfill the prophecy of bringing the Mashiach, which is the Jewish Messiah. Believe that Trump's political rise and future comeback are being orchestrated as part of a larger religious narrative. They are trying to align him with these messianic expectations. This idea taps into the grand conspiracy that Trump's political movements are tied to religious prophecies and a grand divine plan. They believe that if enough people believe in it, it will happen. They call 2024 the Year of Saturn. They are moving pieces in place for that final battle. These events are manufactured. There's a reason why all these stories never add up. Ryan Roof's wife, for example, Kathleen Schaefer, apparently finances his activities, including travel and activism, while reportedly working at a hardware store. Their Hawaii home was mysteriously left untouched for days by the FBI after his arrest. Meanwhile, his son Oren, while dismissing his father's violent side, openly shared how much his father despises Trump. He said said any reasonable person despises Trump, and the reaction to this is quite interesting to say the least. Now, right-wingers are demanding anyone that criticizes Trump in this way should be put on an FBI watch list. Unreal. You know, the free speech people, if you criticize Trump, you should be thrown in prison, as I predicted after the last Trump. And it's actually taking place now. Now, Ryan Ruth's ties to Ukraine go beyond just fundraising. He was featured in Newsweek and profiled by the New York Times for his efforts recruiting Afghan mercenaries to fight for Ukraine. And get this, his first follower on X was a CIA agent. You can't make this up. The FBI's delayed investigation of his home, along with his seemingly lenient sentence for weapons of mass destruction, that lets us know what's really going on here and who is pulling the strings. Ryan Ruth was not acting alone and blaming this man right here with the pink hair. Everything about this, the end times prophecies are being manipulated by those in power to mimic divine miracles, all in the hopes that enough people will believe in them. It's like in the First Omen movie, which I just recently watched, where an evil sect within the church orchestrates the rise of the Antichrist, hoping to scare people back into faith. While the circumstances here differ, the underlying manipulation to bring about a prophecy by any means necessary feels eerily similar here. Let me just play this one part of the First Omen movie I just recently watched. Spoiler alert, but he explains it really well.
Listen to me, Margaret. The truth is, there are two churches. The one that follows the teachings of Christ, the one that you and I are part of, and the other. The church that will turn a blind eye to torture, to rape, to commit murder in the name of God, all in the name of supreme power. What do you think that church is most frightened of?
The devil?
Secularism. We are living in unprecedented times. Look at what's been occurring in your very own generation. A culture that is outspoken, rebelling, sometimes violently. People are turning away from the church in droves. And Margaret, you know as well as I do that belief is power. Now how do you control people who no longer believe in your stories of fire and brimstone? People who do not seem to fear. You create something to fear. This church has maintained power for generations, thousands of years, and they will stop at nothing to keep it that way. So, a small but very powerful group of priests and bishops, even higher, they decided something drastic had to be done. These priests believe they can birth the Antichrist and then control him, allow him to bring his dark forces to bear on the world just enough to drive people back to the church.
It's insane.
Yes. Don't you see? If no one believes such a thing can exist, who will stand in their way?
Sounds eerily similar to what's happening here, except in the movie they blame church, priests, and bishops, when in reality we know who is really pulling this off. Slight predictive programming, but also diverting your attention and blaming the wrong people. Once again, all by design. Now, what does Trump do after this golf course? Well, he goes on X live and spends the first 30 minutes promoting a new cryptocurrency system. Highly unusual. Looks like the pieces are being moved in place here for the grand finale, folks. A global conflict. Trump already promoting digital currencies, which will of course be turned into the major ultimate enslavement method. Do you see the pieces coming together here? The inflation, the banks closing, cutting of interest rates. The same day right before the financial crash happened in 2008, fiat dollar collapse is imminent, and get this, Trump is coming in with a solution. Donald Trump announces launch date of World Liberty Financial, embracing the future with crypto. These are the first steps in the creation of a central bank digital currency. Back in January this year, Trump did say this.
I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
Really though? Looks like Trump is the hero that the DICs chose to give the people to lure them into the digital slavery state. When fiat collapses, there won't be another option. This is why they're building that system right now. It's already set and ready to go. They just need a major cataclysm to accelerate it through.
Join me live on Twitter Spaces at 8 p.m. this September 16th for the launch of World Liberty Financial. We're embracing the future with crypto and leaving the slow and outdated big banks behind.
Now, a lot of people will argue he doesn't mean CBDC, he just means crypto. Now, they will need a great financial reset to take place worldwide in order to. Albert Pike predicted a last battle, the final battle between good and evil. Looks like the pieces are being moved in place for the grand finale, folks. Get your popcorn ready. I'm absolutely shocked to see how many of these puppet politicians are constantly blaming Iran for everything. Remember when Trump shared a clip of Netanyahu giving a speech in Congress saying, "If Iran assassinates me, I hope they are wiped off the face of the earth"? I'm going to go over things that Trump has said about Iran in just a few years, including articles from both left-wing and right-wing channels blaming Iran for ridiculous-ish, okay? Pakistani national with ties to Iran charged in connection to a foiled assassination plot potentially targeting Trump. Peep the headlines here right after the alleged shooting of Trump, all mentioning Iran.
Ridiculous. But we have wars in Europe, we have war in the Middle East, and China is threatening Taiwan. Iran is inches away from a nuclear bomb. They're going to have a nuclear bomb, they say, in 34 days. And when we were in charge.
Hear that? This was in January. He said Iran's going to have a nuclear bomb in 34 days. And someone in the crowd yelled, "We need you!" He'll stop Iran from developing a nuclear bomb, folks. And also, some people hacked Trump's campaign a few months ago. Can you guys guess who was responsible?
They're looking at it, and they're doing it very professionally, and it looks like it's Iran. Iran doing it because Iran is no friend of mine, and a lot of bad signals get sent. But it looks like it's Iran doing it, and the reason is because I was strong on Iran, and I was protecting people in the Middle East that maybe they aren't so happy about that. So that's what it seems to be, Iran.
Is that what the FBI told you specifically, that it was Iran?
I don't want to say exactly, but it was Iran.
She's like, can you get into detail about how it was Iran? Like, can you give us any kind of evidence that it was Iran? He's like, no, it was Iran. That's it. It's like, okay, people, enough said. We're going to war with Iran. It was their main priority, and Trump is fully on board. Matter of fact, it doesn't matter who's in power. It looks like things are going accordingly. And just recently, get this, Trump's latest tweet in all capitals, he just tweeted this, folks. It looks like a Kanye West tweet. It was all capitals. He says this, "Wow, just out. The FBI caught Iran spying on my campaign and giving all of the information to the Kamala Harris campaign. Therefore, she and her campaign were illegally spying on me. To be known as the Iran case. Will Kamala Harris resign in disgrace from politics? Will the communist left pick a new candidate to replace her? Those in charge of every country have their strings. Don't get it twisted. They all understand what the end goal is here, and they need the biblical apocalyptic theater to play out just like the demons in charge want. And if they act accordingly, they are promised a place in the Elysium ring in the sky when all things collapse. The Build Back Better agenda really begins. Help Trump win and get back into office? Not exactly. Maybe, but it seems much more about creating as much chaos as possible. Trump's spiritual advisor even shared an AI-generated video. The whole video was comparing Trump to Jesus Christ, claiming God gave Trump to the world, okay? That's right, people. God gave Mr. Grab him by the pussy to the world to save us.
And on June 14th, 1946, God looked down on his planned paradise and said, "I need a caretaker, so God gave us Trump. God said, I need somebody willing to get up before dawn, fix this country, work all day, fight the Marxists, eat supper, then go to the Oval Office and stay past midnight at a meeting of the heads of state. So God made Trump.
Mind-boggling stuff. Imagine the loyalty of a Trump supporter if they truly believed he was a Christ-like figure. Their devotion would reach extreme levels. And hand it to Kami Kamala. How do you think Trump's followers would react to their savior being robbed? And then what better time to kick off a war with Iran? But let's carry on here. Looks like many other head reptiles are saying the same thing. Or world war. Remember when the World Economic Forum came out saying what we all knew? They said this on their website. It was basically just an IQ test to see how far they could push us. And they admit it. It actually was a test to check how much of a gullible idiot you were. That's right. The WEF just admitted for their next globalist agenda. The biggest compliant drone. The show should have been called Who Wants to Be a Globalist Minion? And guess what? The vast majority of the world's population won. Congrats, sheeple. A worldwide beta test for what, you might ask? Well, that's right, people. Our favorite health expert is once again sounding the alarm on future threats. Bill Gates just recently came out saying a major war or another pandemic will occur in less than 30 years. Well, it looks like due to the most obvious connection ever, those in charge are panicking. We know this because of the over-the-top censorship taking place around the world at the same time. On top of that, they need something to take place soon, so big. World War III or pandemic. Hillary Clinton is openly calling for criminalizing those that spread misinformation. Check this out.
And boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence, because
there you go, folks. Misinformation. There needs to be a deterrence by criminalizing people and throwing them in prison. You know they're scared. So they're putting out their savior there for the people. Now, Gates is saying we're not fully prepared for what's coming. Oh, I think they're preparing all right. I mean, they got billionaire bunkers being built at the same time. He's saying you're not ready. I mean, it's clear they know something is about to take place here. Now, in this article, Gates is bragging about advancing AI and even eradicating polio, which is funny because the only thing he's using AI for is targeting dissenters online and censoring the truth. Everything he says is a lie, and then he points out that America's response to the last pandemic fell short of expectations, criticizing how the country that leads in so many areas struggled when it mattered most. Now, other professors in this article here note the same thing, and you got to pay attention to what they are implying here. This other professor mentioned that the West often ignores emerging diseases until they become a direct threat, a pattern that's proven costly time and time again. had also issued warnings, this time about the potential for flu pandemics, they say, that could spread through animals and humans alike. They're urging nations to collaborate more effectively, as past inaction has shown that ignoring these threats only leads to bigger problems. So it looks like the next psyop is playing out here. Punish people beforehand. Same with what they're doing with this new minority report system being installed in so many countries. Punishing people before they commit a crime. Now, adding to all this, JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon has also expressed concerns about rising geopolitical tensions, which he views as the greatest risk to the global economy. With Russia's aggressive moves and nuclear threats, there's a growing sense of unease that echoes through global markets and politics. It's clear that Gates and the other head reptilians are laying the groundwork for something bigger here. It seems like they're steering society towards a centralized one world government with their constant warnings and predictive analytics. It's almost like they're setting up a minority style system where people will be punished or restricted before they even do anything wrong, based on their online activity or things they might have said, or if a camera catches you frowning. So if you're a chick with resting bitch face, they'll just throw you in prison because you might say something mean later on. So this time they won't even need freeze your CBDC bank accounts. The DICs are pushing us towards a future where surveillance and preemptive control are the new norms, and they're trying to get everyone to work together on a global scale here. It says here, ultimately, Gates isn't entirely sure how to stop the spread of misinformation.
We should have free speech, but if you're inciting violence, if you're causing people not to take vaccines, where are those boundaries that even the U.S. should, have rules? And then if you have rules, what is it? Is there some AI that encodes those rules because you have billions of activity and, if you catch it a day later, the harm is done.
Can you believe he said that? We need to silence people. We need to silence those that are. Why would they do such a thing? I mean, if we were just crazy and spreading misinformation, why not let us look like idiots on YouTube? Why would you completely silence us and want to throw us in prison for it? It doesn't make any sense. They expose themselves. They're over-the-top totalitarian laws they want to implement, expose themselves as. So it looks like we're living in a real-life minority report now. AI can apparently predict crimes before they happen, because why wait until something actually goes wrong, right? Researchers from the University of Chicago have cooked up an AI that claims to predict crimes a week in advance with a 90% accuracy rate. Not to be outdone, South Korea has got their own system called Deja Vu. That's basically a digital fortune teller for crime scenes. It scans everything from your shifty behavior to surveillance footage, all trained on 32,000 crime videos to predict where and when the next bad thing will go down, and even keeps tabs on folks with a past. Accuracy, they say, about 82.8%, because clearly we need an AI babysitter watching us at all times and watching our every move, ready to lock us down before we even think about jaywalking. Tie it all together, and what do you get? A world where Bill Gates and his Legion of Doom might just be plotting our every step. Canada right now is making up these outbreaks, AIs predicting our misdeeds before they happen. To take place in the future with the press of a button. It's some evil dystopian hellscape, aka China. They want China. They want a China-style system here. So don't be surprised if one day you get hauled off for a crime you didn't commit yet, okay? If you don't fight against the system now, don't be angry if they want to lock you up for posting a meme. Just smile for the cameras or your social credit score will be affected. The AI DICs, let's call them that, the AI DICs are always watching now. Do they have mind-reading tech? As crazy as it sounds to some, it might be so common for not only the secret factions in the government to have, but even the biggest companies in the world might have this technology too. It might not be as secretive as we might think. I brought up a story last podcast where I was thinking about purchasing this water filter I use in the airport, and then I saw an ad for it right when I sat down looking at my phone. I didn't even say anything out loud. I just used the water filter, thought for a split second how cool it would be to have it, went and sat down and saw an ad for this exact water filter, the exact brand too. When I brought this up last podcast, I got so many messages and emails from people saying the exact same thing. They just had a thought about purchasing something, a random product, they never even spoke about it, and then voila, they see an ad for it. Well, let's go over this right here. On Neoscope, this is fine, it says, scientists concerned about devices that literally read your mind, in quotes here, if we lose our mental privacy, what else is there to lose? Welcome to dystopian hell, folks. Like I said, otherwise known as China. That's right, they beta tested this system in China and found it does work very well in keeping the sheeples in line. Check this out right here. China's got a real-life Minority Report state installed where over 1 billion people can't even frown without some camera catching it. They've got surveillance everywhere, street corners, subways, hotels, you name it. Your shopping habits and online history monitored and tracked alongside your text too, phones, and how many times you've been to the bathroom today. I mean, they really surveil all this stuff. And why are they doing all this? Well, they believe if they have all this data and they run it through this advanced AI system, this AI can let them know of trouble before it happens. They're not just after the usual suspects with criminal records either. They're keeping tabs on ethnic minorities, migrant workers, and even people with mental health issues, they say. Basically, if you've ever even thought about stepping out of line, their tech is ready to predict it and shut you down. You heard that right. A pre-crime division at your local police station. Just imagine that. Imagine an entire police force for something like that, trying to predict if you're going to commit a crime in the future. Unreal. Guaranteed they'll combine the mind reading tech with the Minority Report system too. The WEF on stage did mention this. This is out there in the open, on camera. The World Economic Forum talks about mind control using sound waves.
And understand a wonderful future where we can use brainwaves to fight crime, be more productive, and find love. Let's roll.
Sensing your joy, your playlist shifts to your favorite song, sending chills up your spine as the music begins to play. You glance at the program running in the background on your computer screen and notice a now familiar sight that appears whenever you're overloaded with pleasure. Your theta brainwave activity decreasing in the temporal regions of your brain. You mentally move the cursor to the left and scroll through your brain data over the past few hours. You can see your stress levels rising as the deadline to finish your memo approached, causing a peak in your beta brainwave activity right before an alert popped up, telling you to take a brain break. Your mind starts to wander to the new colleague on your team, whom you know you shouldn't be daydreaming about, given the policy against intra-office romance. But you can't help fantasizing just a little. But then you start to worry that your boss will notice your amorous feelings when she checks your brain activity and shift your attention back to the present.
Well, they did speak about this on a World Economic Forum stage, people. Will they use this tech to track and target people in the future before they've even done anything wrong? And as crazy as it sounds, there was a time where people were warning they will spy on you using your phone, and you'd be laughed out of the room in the early 2000s if you brought that up. Well, now it's common knowledge they use your phone to spy on you. But they would never use brainwave reading technology to read our thoughts, right? In the future, it's going to be like, well, obviously they do that. It would be a liberal politician's dream if you think about it. They were talking about reading your beta brainwaves. Beta brainwaves. I'm pretty sure that means like when Justin Trudeau has a thought about anything, you call those beta brainwaves. But imagine being at work thinking about how much you hate your boss and suddenly you're flagged as a potential criminal. Swarms of drones break into the building. Congratulations. But no joke, I saw a video earlier with these drones being able to maneuver through a dense forest with ease. I mean, think about how crazy this is. Like, what is society going to look like in 20 years? Real life is more nightmarish than Minority Report, 1984, Soylent Green, Leave the World Behind, and Cell combined. Those movies are like a Disney adaptation of real life, okay? You're now guilty before you even have a chance to screw up. Remember that thing called freedom? Remember that? Yeah, that's dead and gone, okay? You better keep those thoughts cute and compliant, because if you don't, well, you're going to be sent to a re-education camp. Speaking of the movie Cell, as many of you know already, I brought this up many times on this podcast, where they target cell phones, and anyone holding a cell phone is targeted and turned into a raging flesh-eating zombie. This lets us know what kind of tech they have, okay? If you ever were wondering, your cell phone could be one of those targets. Check this out right here. Israel's up to some high-tech death shenanigans again. Oh, Israel. Claiming they're conducting limited operations against Hezbollah, in quotes, when really it sounds like this is another test run of their latest weapons. They got it all, folks. Lebanese sources report that dozens of Hezbollah operatives in southern Lebanon and Beirut suddenly found their communication devices exploding in their hands. Radios, pagers, and flip phones supposedly switched to dodge hacks ended up turning into mini bombs. Lebanese media is saying around 1,000 people were injured. I believe now it's over 5,000 or so. Many of them critically injured, and similar explosions even happened in Syria. That can turn any device into a weapon, and the perfect cover story I mean, think about it. Allegedly, these terrorists switched from smartphones to pagers, thinking that pagers couldn't be hacked, and wouldn't you know it, these pagers were turned into mini grenades. Today it's pagers and flip phones, but tomorrow it could be any device in anyone's pocket. One wrong thought, or even just being in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you're suddenly part of their test. End quote. Take a look at this front page of the New York Post newspaper. Beep, beep, boom. 2,800 Hezbollah terrorists hit by exploding pager plot. A targeted attack on the enemy. Because, yeah, you know, everyone that works in hospitals and government employees who just so happen to have their pagers go boom are totally in on it with Hezbollah. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Dave Portnoy on Twitter brings up the event and says, "I can't wait to watch when this becomes a spy movie. This is the craziest counterterrorism plot I've ever heard of." Counterterrorism? More like just straight up good old-fashioned terrorism. And look at who agrees with him right here. Linda Yaccarino, CEO of X. That's right, folks. Isn't it cool that the free speech hero put her in charge right here? CEO of X totally agrees. Is so cool. Now, some are saying this was not some advanced tech and that Mossad was just rigging a shipping container from Taiwan that was shipping some equipment. Thunderstruck, for example, on Twitter said this: "The pager attack was not a work of technical genius, nor was it targeted. They rigged a shipment of pagers from Taiwan with explosives. They have no idea who had them. They just figured at least some of them would go to people in Hezbollah. It's just indiscriminate terrorism." People telling you that this shows some kind of technical or intelligence brilliance by Mossad are lying or gullible. Is this the case though? I mean, it would make sense, but I'm reading more and more reports that it wasn't just pagers. I think there's more to it than we're told. And these people that believe it was just a run-of-the-mill explosive device put into pagers are denying the reality. Because if this were true, the implications would be terrifying. Look at all these random devices now exploding in Beirut. Solar panels, smartphones, intercoms, batteries, and radios are all exploding right now in Beirut and other cities in Lebanon. There are also new reports of hospitals in Beirut being overwhelmed with thousands of people injured, this one tweet says. All of these things exploding didn't just so happen to come from Taiwan in a shipping container just in 1 week. To get them to explode. EMP weapons are very real, and they've been working on this tech for quite some time. Think of an electromagnetic weapon that doesn't just take down Wi-Fi, but it makes your phone explode. EMP, electromagnetic pulse weapons, are real, and they're designed to fry the circuits in everything from smartphones to power grids. The science behind it is pretty simple. You just overload the electronics, and they either stop working or, in this case, they go kaboom. But what they're not telling you is they have direct energy weapons so precise that it could target individual devices, pushing their batteries to the point of explosion. We're talking about the same lithium-ion batteries that already tend to catch fire. We've heard reports of this on planes and elsewhere. Phones can just blow up randomly. Seems like these batteries aren't even stable in the first place, so imagine how easy it would be for them to cause them to explode. But this time with a little push from your friendly quick, throw your phone out the damn window. For a lot of these people, you're not doing anything valuable on there anyway, okay? You're mindlessly doom scrolling. All this reminds me of a mission in GTA 5, the game that came out in 2013. The mission was called Friend Request, where the main character Michael had to infiltrate the office of the tech company Life Invader and plant an explosive in a prototype phone. During the live product presentation, Michael remotely detonates the phone by calling it, and it explodes, killing the CEO of the company. Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting a peek into a future where any device could turn on you now. I mean, dystopian nightmare-ish, all under the guise of fighting some shadowy enemy. And if this all sounds a bit too familiar, it's because it's straight out of the movie Cell, people, where phones turn people into crazed maniacs, those in charge targeting phones to attack the population, and it looks like they really have this tech here in real life. The implications are terrifying, or as I mentioned a few podcasts ago, this sounds like the plot to the Kingsman, the Secret Service, where SIM cards and phones turn into lethal weapons, driving people into a frenzy. Once again, predictive programming. If they're able to hack phones and make them explode, what else could they hack? Think about much larger devices that people use. I mean, hey, if they can hack pagers and radios, what's next? The fridge going rogue and launching frozen ice at you? Or they turn your smart stove into a mini nuke because you didn't get vaccinated? Toasters exploding and stoves imploding. Think about the implications. If they can mess with communications devices, who's to say they won't start flipping the switch on everything else? So back to the terror attack in Lebanon, reports suggest that smartphones, intercoms, crypto devices, tickers, smartwatches, solar panels, and even some household appliances exploded. How wild is that? So these things can be hacked and used like mini grenades. And Elon Musk wants to put chips in your brain. They want to give you the JFK treatment. Now, it's weird to hear this end of the world rhetoric coming from so many head reptiles, I must say. From Bill Gates saying a world-changing event is on the horizon to Elon Musk saying this in response to a post about a comet that's coming close to Earth. Elon Musk retweeted it and said, "One of these days, a large comet will hit Earth and destroy almost all life. As has happened many times in the past, eventually the sun will expand enough to boil the oceans and destroy all life. Either become a spacefaring civilization or die. Those are the two choices." Really now? How believable is that? Do the controllers have a plan C option? Do they have this technology? Why are we seeing so many posts like this one here? Earth will temporarily get a second moon on September 29? Like, hold up, what? So this is what the DICs want you to believe. Basically a small asteroid. Freemason numbers, folks. Of course, it's exactly 33 feet long. It's about to be pulled into the Earth's orbit, making it our second moon. But the sun's strong gravitational influence will eject it from our orbit and return it to space after 2 months. Okay, things are getting a little weird. I'm kidding, but you know. We're about to have a second moon, folks. How does the Moonchild feel about this? Can someone please get Donald Trump on the line? What on earth is going on in the skies lately? I'm hearing some creepy stuff happening all around the world that seem like end times type of stuff. Let's head on over to China. Check this video out right here of a mysterious phenomenon they say that caused 7 suns to appear in the sky. They're saying this is some kind of wild optical illusion. This took place last month in August. Is it though? An optical illusion? Isn't this the same place that was working on creating artificial suns? Matter of fact, in January this year, it says China launches fusion consortium to build artificial sun. The Chinese government has set the goal of building the first industrial prototype fusion reactor. They want a fully operational artificial sun in the sky by 2035. And it looks like they're ahead of schedule. I mean, they got 7 suns floating over China now. Those Chinese work so damn quickly. It's crazy how much you can accomplish by throwing slavery at it. Something big is about to go down here. This is some apocalyptic-ish. I mean, we got P. Diddy denied a $50 million bail. I'm predicting this man might get Epstein, okay? If there's even a slight chance he starts singing, exposing the same worldwide child sex trafficking ring Epstein was a part of, there's a chance he might spontaneously combust into flames in his jail cell, thanks to Israel, of course. But this is wild. Every time something like this happens, where their crimes against humanity is about to be exposed, they hit us with so much chaos it overshadows their worldwide child sex trafficking ring completely. Apparently the CIA and Mossad were working with Diddy to blackmail certain celebrities and even politicians at Diddy's freak-off parties. And yes, he actually called them freak-offs. And now Diddy's placed on suicide watch, and he faces federal sex trafficking and racketeering charges. So you notice how a lot of their demonic plans are getting exposed here. And now they're talking about misinformation is their main priority. It gets your attention off of all of this, okay? Let's get into this one right here. This is weird.